Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. We're recommending lately that you download us on or stream us on Spotify. Apple Podcasts has been super slow of late, so check that out whether you're on Apple iOS or on Android. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. Bypasses the Apple upcharge. You got to pay the $2.99, then you get access to everything. We put everything on there. You don't need to be on Twitter anymore. Okay, everything that is good from there. What is still good from there, we will move it. Place for the most heat, information, conversation, etc. You also get host updates, a draft channel, transaction channel, stage shows, and more. So check it out. It is Off the Floor. Also, Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down your 5, you get 50 to play right away. We're going to be doing Prize Pick shows on every game of the NBA Finals, also the Stanley Cup Finals. If you follow hockey, you can take some Panthers and put them with some Thunder players if you want. Check it out. It's Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE. Get your $50. Again, legal in the state of Florida. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah. Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Down to Biscayne, kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Digital Adel. You can follow him at Digital Adel, or you'll find him on playback.tv/5RSN. We'll be watching the finals games next week, whether we want to or not. Also, you can check out the draft channel on Discord on Off the Floor. He's there all the time. All right, we're going through some draft topics as we go forward. We are now less than a month, actually, from the NBA draft. We'll have full coverage of that. The Heat are having a draft party at the arena. There was some technical stuff that they had to deal with last year. This year, they're going to be there. So we'll be there too. I probably will be in Florida this time instead of New York for the draft. So it'll probably be myself, Brady, and Alex. And then we'll have our crew of thousands covering it. The Heat have the 20th overall pick. That's Golden State's pick. They do not have their own pick. That would have been 15th. That one went to Oklahoma City because, yeah, they need more, right? They need more. It's like, fat kid gets fudge. All right. Anyway, Adel, lots and lots and lots of fudge, like all the fudge you ever want.
All the fudge.
All the fudge, every fudge store ever, and the sprinkles and the chocolate chips and the whole deal, marshmallows, whipped cream. Anyway, I'm getting hungry. Adel, you have a concern. You addressed with me. It's not nothing I did, not this time. It's something that is happening here, and it's making this Heat pick less valuable in your view. Tell us.
Yeah, it's making it less valuable, and it's kind of limiting the options and directions they could go. One of the biggest advantages of being in this 2025 draft was the fact that the Heat could go any way they wanted, regardless of if they picked at 2015, in that area. It wouldn't have mattered because it was a very deep draft, and it's still a very deep draft, except a lot of the guards went back to school and the facilitating, playmaking style guards that they're looking for. Tahad Pettiford went back to school. He went back to Auburn. Boogie Fland went back to school. He was one of my favorites early in the process, got injured. So he went back to school to improve his stock. And then another guy that we talked about a little less so, but was still in that conversation, was LeBaron Philon. Him and Pettiford matched up quite a bit. They went head to head. Him and Jeremiah Fears matched up, went head to head. And I actually think Philon early in the process got the better of Jeremiah Fears for much of the season. And he's a very versatile guard. He had a lot of size, but him going back to school, the options for a lead facilitating guard have dwindled significantly.
Okay, well, here's one positive way to look at this, because we always try to spin things positively, is that the Heat save the protections on their 2026 pick now, right?
Yes.
Um, so if they're not very good this year, one of these players may develop into somebody that they want. Of course, that would be waiting a year. And this does tend to happen because whenever we talk about a draft being great, then if players are getting good advice, they'll say, well, wait a year, get better, get into a slightly weaker draft class. Of course, then that then improves the next draft class. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, you and I have talked about these kind of facilitating guards and what they need. Do you think that in light of this, and of course, they could just trade the pick for somebody like Durant anyway, in which case we're having this conversation for nothing. But do you think that this if the player like that could help them, which with the needs that they have, which are fairly apparent, if the player is not going to be there, do you see any scenario now where they just say, F it, let's get out of the first round, straight down to the second round, let's save some money on the, they're trying to stay under the repeater. I know that. So, like, could you see that scenario now?
I don't really see a scenario where they trade back, to be honest with you. It's not something the Heat do really. And to go from 20 to 30 in this class, maybe you could get like a Walter Clayton Jr., but do you really want to get a guy that isn't going to really solve your point of attack defense, another small guard? He can shoot the lights out, but he's not going to really be that main guy. I don't know about that. Personally, I think there are guys that would be there that would help solidify your roster longer term. You'd start looking at some of the bigs, in my opinion. So, like, say again, we talk about this all the time. Like, if a Thomas Sorber falls, a Nick Clifford, if he's still there, he'd help your wing offensively a lot. Even a Joan Behringer or a Danny Wolf. So I think there's going to be guys there they could take at 20, but it just swings your options to kind of lock you out of that facilitating guard market, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, could a Jaeger Denman fall? I mean, he's a big talent with a lot of limitations and watchouts in my book. He's projected to go earlier, but I could definitely see the guy could slide.
Right. So what'd you say is this could shift them to a different position? Not that they were guaranteed to take a guard anyway, but again, looking at the roster now, some of the roster or what they do may be dictated on what the plans are. Excuse me, with Davion. Excuse me again. I used to have a cough button at the radio station. I don't have that here. I just would have to pause the podcast, and that would take too much time. So, okay. I mean, some of it may be dictated on Davion, but we know Davion's not exactly what you're talking about. Like, Davion is a point of attack defender. He improved as a playmaker. Clearly, he was a lottery pick, and he improved as a shooter. But we're talking about somebody who's just going to juice their offense, and it doesn't seem like a lot of those guys are there. We also did an episode about Shea and about Halliburton and their comps, and just for people who, and I know you don't like the word comps, but players that they could develop into. I get it. This is a disclaimer. It's like I can't talk to Sean about positions. I can't talk to Eternal about anything he's wrong about. This is kind of where I'm at. But you did sort of say that Knipple has similar metrics to what Halliburton has, and you said Trey Johnson has some metrics that remind you some ways of where SGA was in college, because both Halliburton and SGA, by the way, went out of the top 10. They went 11th and 12th. One of the reasons I reference it, but the Heat picked 20th, and we don't think either of those two players, Trey Johnson or Knipple, is going to get anywhere near 20. But I guess I just want to remind people of that because we just did that episode, and if you want to listen to it, you can. There were some complaints about that episode, and probably more about me than you, that I was focusing on two guys that cannot get down to the Heat, and we should have focused on guys who can. But kind of what you're saying here is that some of the ones that we thought might won't, because they're not even eligible in the draft anymore because they pulled themselves out. It's an interesting conversation, and it gets back to this, and I'll go on the other side of this because it's not just bigs, is I've always felt you take best available player, and now it feels like that may be where this ends up going. But we will talk about that on the other side of this. We do want to mention a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, our friends over at Real Estate Shop. You can find them with 2 P's in the E, Real Estate Shop, FL.com, the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram as well. Amanda, Javier, huge Heat fans, family folks. They are business together, married couple. They know what your family needs for a house in Broward County. That's basically the best I can put it. Whether you need to sell a house, get the most possible money, they will work really hard for you. Or if you're trying to buy a house in what is a challenging market, we know that in South Florida, dealing with interest rates, tariff, all kinds of stuff's going on with the economy. So just reach out to two people who know, they'll be sympathetic to your concerns. And again, they won't cheat you in any way. They're going to work with you and get you the best deals possible on both ends of the spectrum. So check them out, realestateshopfl.com. That's realestateshopfl.com, 2 P's and an E, or the Fort Lauderdale Realtor. All right, so I'm a best player available person. It's why I was okay with them taking Dwayne Wade when they had Eddie Jones. Take the best player and you figure it out. They obviously, you mentioned bigs. They could use a backup big. We've seen them cycle through so many backup bigs over the years. Kevin Love is not reliable as a player anymore. And Thomas Bryant is leading the Indiana Pacers to a championship. Dwayne Dedmon has a massage gun somewhere, and Cody Zeller is playing the worst 5 minutes in NBA Finals history. So I understand the desire for. I liked Cody. That was hard to watch. I had to see it in person. So I understand the need potentially for a backup big, but I'm just saying, like, if you're not going to get the guard you want, you're not going to trade up, and you're not going to trade down, then just take an athlete,
right,
to develop, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the best way to go. Is you take the best player you can, and even if he's like a moldable piece of clay, like Joan Behringer he's an international player. He's a center as well, but he's 6'10", but he has this body type that reminds me a lot of how, and not the player. I'm not saying he's the player, but the body type of kind of how Giannis filled out his frame. He has a frame like that. I mean,
it sounds good.
It sounds really good, right? He doesn't have the dexterity and handles, right? But he's a different type of player. But he has that frame. And so there's going to be a player like that. Even a Nolan Traore, he's a little bit smaller of a guard. He's 6'3", but he's 175 pounds. But he's a really good facilitator. His shot form's way better than his percentages say. He's a good free throw shooter. So I think there's going to be guys there. There's even going to be like older players. I think like Nick Clifford. He's 23 years old. Isaiah Stevens, former teammate. 6'6" wing, but he's dynamic. Like his advanced stats, when you look at his advanced stats, they're really, really good. He was the best rebounder in the country that was 6'6" in the entire college basketball. Like he was averaging almost 10 rebounds per game or something like that. So
right. And I've seen that name a lot lately. That name keeps popping up for them. Would you be concerned about taking a 23-year-old rookie, though? They did this with Jaquez.
They have, but so like Nick Clifford, because of the efficiency stuff and his ability to shoot the three at volume without Isaiah Stevens being there last season, I mean, he's going to be a terrific defender for you. He's going to be able to be dynamic in the open floor. Like he's really exceptionally fast in a straight line. He's not like super lateral. Like he doesn't have a lot of shiftiness to his game, but in a straight line, that dude is fast. Like he's elite fast. So like, I think he's going to have a role. And in today's game, I was listening to a podcast where Austin Rivers was talking about how the game has changed to where you need wings that can make quick decisions. That was an issue Jaquez struggled with because he was a power forward in college. The handling and facilitating that decision-making is what you need. You need that, and you need to be able to attack the close quickly and shoot the three. Nick Clifford does all those things.
They've had an athlete deficit for a long time.
Yes.
But like, it's why when they've had an athlete, it's jumped out. Like Derek Jones Jr. is an elite athlete. But I mean, he jumped out even more in Miami than he would anywhere else, simply because they don't have a lot of those. They haven't had a lot of those. I'm going back to, I mean, even all through the years, like Riley has never prioritized that. Like I go back to the late 90s teams. They had a guy named Mark Strickland, who actually, Strick's a good dude. I still bump into him on occasion. Elite athlete, just struggle with some of the skill stuff. But it was just like, oh my God, they have won. Like it's just not like Tim dragging his feet up the court, at the stage of his career after his knees were shot, or Dan Marley like after knee surgeries and 12 other surgeries, and then you just go through the years, like even the Shaq Wade. Okay, obviously Dwayne is an elite athlete, although I always remember Dwayne laughing at me, not the first or last time, but I was asking him about Russell Westbrook once. I'm like, does he remind you of you at all when you were? This is when Russ was emerging. This was like, he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, I want nothing like Russ. I mean, like in other words, like of course he did dunk on Varejao and Jermaine O'Neal and whatever. Like Dwayne had hops, but they haven't prioritized that. Jimmy wouldn't be classified as elite as an athlete. He was elite as a worker, as a basketball IQ guy, that kind of thing. Bam has, plus athleticism for his position. I don't know that they've ever maximized it. They've never found anybody to throw him a decent lob. Right? He doesn't
Never.
go he doesn't go past people as much as he should. He can do it. We see it, and we're like, okay, there you go. And then it's a bunch of mid-range jumpers after that. And then again, you look at this roster, like where's the athleticism? Like, and I'm not talking about obviously every basketball player is an athlete, but I'm talking about
But even Nico,
Right.
doesn't have elite athleticism as a prospect.
Larson doesn't. I mean, I like his toughness. Where, yes, but I'm confused about where, because I don't know when he puts on the weight if it's going to look quite the same. I'm curious to see how they manage that, as he needs to get stronger, clearly. But again, I'm looking at the rest of the roster. I mean, Wiggins was considered a lead athlete when he came in. I wouldn't say now. Highsmith is not. Duncan is not. I mean, Rozier is not. Tyler has maximized what God's given him.
Kashad Johnson, elite athlete.
That's the one, right?
One guy.
They wouldn't play him. Right? So I just like, they have to. We talk about transition, and someone threw this in my face today because I did an episode with Gio where I was like, okay, can they fix the transition offense? And I guess their points per possession in transition were top 10. I don't know how. I don't know if that was compared to the G League, but because it's hard to watch a lot of the time.
Very, very hard to watch.
But don't they? I mean, don't they need? I mean, I'm watching OKC, and I'm like, okay, like there are legitimate athletes on the wing there,
Yeah.
and I don't see it with Miami. So you're saying the Clifford? Are there others that would be like athlete projects? Because I'm a little concerned about it in one regard, because Pat, had the scouting staff. I know the scouting staff was not for this. KZ Okpala, they traded 3 picks to move up, or 1 pick, and then they got a pick, traded 2 more picks to get KZ Okpala, and he just couldn't play basketball.
Right.
So I guess there's a fine line here, but is there an athlete there that, other than Clifford, that you would say?
Hugo Gonzalez.
Okay.
He's on a very good Real Madrid team. The whole team has ex-NBA players starting. And he didn't really play much off the bench. He played like 5 minutes off the bench all season. In each game. He played 1 playoff game where they let him play for a half because they needed a spark. He played very, very well. That guy's very, very athletic. He's very, very athletic. 6 foot, 207 pounds. He's a great athlete. Adel Thoreau can't shoot, so I'm going to put that out there. Right. Bull in a China shop, free throw merchant, but he's also very, very athletic, dynamic defensively. He'll do everything else for you but shoot, rebound, pass, take people off the dribble, attack the close, but he can't shoot at all. But he's an amazing athlete. Amazing athlete.
Okay, so here's one. Would you say Jamal Kane is a plus NBA athlete?
Yes.
Okay. But it didn't work, right?
Well, because, he didn't have the skill set and the processing ability. And that goes back to what Austin Rivers
lose his mind with him a few times, and that was right. So, okay, so I guess that's the thing. Like, this is the fine line. Like, if you have an elite athlete who's going to drop to 20, it's probably going to be some other ding against him, right, at that point, which is concern. I just want to see them be a little more electrifying. I want to see, because see, I look at it this way, and I maybe they don't. I don't know. Okay, but shooting. Like, they're really good at getting guys to shoot better. Yes. Like, whether it's Rob Fodor coming in or any of the, like, they know how to make guys, whether it's Spo creating opportunities analytically and in other ways, or it's just shooting form and tweaking things. Like, and we saw with Davion, like, and
Yeah.
if we'll see if it holds, but we saw they're really good at that. But the and Highsmith, like Highsmith couldn't shoot at all when he first came up, right? And now
No.
he's a pretty reliable, corner 3-point shooter. Okay, and he also has some games where he'll start to make some from the wings. He tends to be a rhythm player in that regard. But so it seems to me like if you have the athletic base, more so than some of these guys that they've counted on before, they could teach them to shoot, couldn't they? Isn't that easier than doing the opposite? Like, I mean,
Well,
try and turn
in
them into
context
athletes?
of like a weak side spot up shooter, yes.
Right,
Not
right.
like a lead, I'm going to create my own offense type of thing. No. But
Right.
yeah, you can definitely make them into like a weak side spot up shooter. Like, because that's kind of what happened with Jason Kidd later in his career when he finally started shooting. It was
Man ended up top 10 in 3-point makes. Like, he couldn't shoot at all when he got into
not
the
at
league.
all. He couldn't, like,
Right.
that was the joke. Ace and Kidd because he has no J. Like, that was the joke.
Right. Dude, was did he end up top 5? I think he might have been past.
He
But
climbed
like,
really high. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know the exact number.
I mean, but again, you're talking about whatever people think of Jason Kidd, and I know there's different opinions on Jason Kidd, the human being, but I'm saying, like, as a basketball IQ, that guy is like
off the
99 percentile.
charts. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Like Nash is. Okay. There's just a certain, they just have it. They understand it. And so he probably understood how to break down his own jumper, work off of others. And obviously, we saw him win a championship with Dallas when he wasn't even anywhere near the same player, but he was contributing at that stage. I guess, okay, the overall thought of this episode is this, and I wouldn't want to depress people too much because the Heat tend to find good players regardless of where they draft. But this pool that we were expecting, where you were going to have like this flood of guards that they could choose between, even though they don't have 15 anymore, but they have 20. I'll finish with this. Are they going to? I know it's not a 1-for-1 comparison, obviously, because there were things that had to happen for them to give up the 15th pick, and then they got the 20th pick for Jimmy. But are we going to be sitting there on draft? I know Heat fans won't distinguish all the things that went into that. Okay, so they're just going to say, well, if we'd picked 15th instead of 20th, we would have had this guy. Is there a player, is there a guard you're looking at that we're going to say, and I don't know if OKC's in keeping the 15th pick. They don't need any of these picks. But let's say that we're going to say somebody's going to go at 15, and we're going to say, well, if the Heat had 15, they could have gotten this guy, but at 20, he wasn't there anymore.
I mean, Jace Richardson could be that guy, even though he's a little bit of a smaller guard. I don't see Kasparas Giacochonis falling out of the top 10. But yeah, I mean, Jace Richardson could be that type of guard because he was dynamic at Michigan State, even though he's 6'1". He's got a 6'6" wingspan, that great athleticism, and his advanced metrics are kind of off the charts as well. So he could end up being one of those types of guys. But
just want to know what they're going to complain about, not the Heat. What are the fans going to complain about?
But the one thing I'll say about this draft, though, Ethan, because I think there's going to be a lot of trades on draft night, our board's going to get flipped on its head depending on who trades out and who needs a center and all of this stuff. So predicting who's going to be there at number 15 is a tough one at this point.
Got it. All right, Adel, we appreciate it. We'll be back to depress people further in a variety of different ways. No, we're going to get more upbeat as we head towards, we're going to start hope trafficking soon. Greg's warming up. He's in the bullpen. We're going to hope traffic this thing. We got Major, we got a lefty and a righty in the pen. I don't know who's left-handed or who's right-handed, but we're going to bring the two of them in, make everybody feel better about this situation. Greg's lefty life, right? Okay, there you go. We got a lefty in the pen. He and I have to do the BAM episode, and he's ducking me. Anyway, no, he's not, but it feels like it. All right, Digital Adel, we appreciate you. Thanks again. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE Real Estate Shop. We'll be doing more episodes. We're going to do an NBA Finals preview as soon as we have another finals team. As we're recording this, Indiana hasn't closed out the Knicks yet. We'll see if they do. Brady and I are going to handle that because he knows about basketball and I don't. Have a good one.